A question needs to be called if anybody up to and including members of Congress or the Senate who may have been shown either this specific proposal that I'm about to read or were in any way connected to any entities associated with the people that I went to class with who I sent a copy of this to. Uh, Participated in illegal lobbying of the American Society for Non-Destructive Testing in order to change the personnel testing standards that were released this past summer that I believe are not only unsafe but highly exploitative and are intentionally meant to be so. And if that's the case, they need to be investigated and prosecuted not only for human trafficking but for acts of industrial sabotage that have national security implications. But this is the actual bill. See, I guess I submitted both of these at the same time for consideration. There were others that I had written at the time, and then there was another one that I wrote later concerning specifically nanotechnology, or rather, nanotechnology and vibrational technologies, the original draft of which was stolen. It was only handwritten and it was stolen, and I believe somebody got a hold of it along with a technical proposal that I had made, a technical business proposal I had made regarding a legal app, and that was actually in consideration of a proposed piece of legislation that was 8 parts, the last part of which spoke specifically about nanotechnology and vibrational technologies. And while I don't have that, because it was stolen, I did later write another bill in early 2018 regarding vibrational technologies. Um, that was meant to be complemented with this one, which was written in May of 2017. It's called Use of Non-Destructive Testing Techniques for Financial and Information Transactions Law of 2017. The purpose of this law is to assure that techniques applied to the non-destructive testing industry are not used to facilitate financial transactions and information extraction and or dissemination involving youth or without the prior informed consent and training of the participant. This law is further intended to lay groundwork for holding accountable those who have used techniques applied to the non-destructive testing industry in the past as part of any sort of financial transaction or information extraction and or dissemination program or experiment. Section 1. No technique that is used for the purposes of performing an inspection recognized by the non-destructive testing industry per certification by the American Society for Non-Destructive Testing, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, National Aeronautics Society, or the American Society of Testing Materials, shall be used for the purposes of facilitating a financial transaction directly using or involving the bodily participation of human beings unless the following qualifications are met. Section 1.1. All individuals involved in the transaction, including those processing the transaction and those benefiting in any way, monetarily or in terms of data acquisition or usage, shall be permitted to serve as a transactional instrument, programmer, beneficiary, recorder, payee, or any other functionary associated with the transaction, unless they have first learned the technique and also first served as a specific transactional vehicle themselves. Certification of their knowledge of the technique that is to be used in the course of their participation as a transactional instrument must first be obtained through a recognized school of NDT technology or certification with one of the aforementioned societies. Section 1.3. They must also demonstrate their capacity to budget their own participation through any financial transactional process that might seek to utilize them as an instrument. For any individual that has been previously used and can demonstrate such as would be applicable under Section 3 of this bill, that includes being able to provide an accrual accounting of how he was used for a period of time correlating to the specific process they are willing to engage personally. Section 1.4. Any person who wishes to benefit from the implementation of this law or after May 21st, 2017, whichever is sooner, shall have to first serve as a transactional instrument by an individual or organization of individuals who have previously experienced being used as a transactional instrument as would qualify under Section 3 of this bill. Section 1.5. At no point and in any manner is an individual under the age of 18 years old to be used as a transactional instrument or to be engaged in any manner that is related to techniques applied to the non-destructive testing industry. Section 2. No technique that is used for the purposes of performing an inspection recognized by the non-destructive testing industry per certification by the American Society for Non-Destructive Testing, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, National Aeronautics Society, or the American Society of Testing Materials, shall be used for the purposes of extracting personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties, unless the following qualifications are met first. Section 2.1. The individual from whom any personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties originates has provided an express written agreement, including to whom his personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties will be disseminated, and is compensated proportionate to any benefit, be it material, financial, or otherwise, that should derive from his personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties. Section 2.2. Individual from whom any personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties originates must be able to withdraw from participation in the further dissemination of his or her personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties that have been disseminated up to the point of ending the relationship without any penalty and or liability for the future use of his personal information, ideas, expertise, projects, plans, experiential knowledge, skills, talents, biological data, healing techniques, or regenerative properties that might come about from his withdrawal. Section 3. Penalties for past, current, and future use of non-destructive testing techniques without prior consent of participants shall be incurred as follows. Section 3.1. Any individual who benefits from, utilizes, implements, participates in the facilitation of, uses as personal financial support, offers as a donation, orchestrates as a means for negotiating political or business dealings, operationalizes as part of a financial transactional system, codes into the ongoing processes of a pre-existing financial system, or votes to support in the course of fundraising the use of any techniques applied to the non-destructive testing industry involving the use of minors under the age of 18 shall be held guilty of a capital offense and punished accordingly. Section 3.2. Any individual who, as of May 21st, 2017, or the passage of this bill, has previously benefited from, utilized, implemented, participated in the facilitation of, used as personal financial support, offered as a donation, orchestrated as a means for negotiating political or business dealings, operationalized as a part of a financial transactional system, coded into the ongoing processes of a pre-existing financial system, or voted to support in the course of fundraising the use of any techniques applied to the non-destructive testing industry without the express written consent of the individual or group of individuals used as either financial transactional instruments or from whom information was extracted, shall be permanently banned from the future use of non-destructive testing technology for life, and shall have all profits, assets, bonds, stocks, shares, properties, certifications, licenses, degrees, titles, benefits, public or private, including pensions and insurance, and affiliations seized for apportionment to the individuals and groups from whom they have benefited. Section 3.3. Accommodation may be made for individuals who may have previously benefited from, utilized, implemented, participated in the facilitation of, used as personal financial support, offered as a donation, orchestrated as a means for negotiating political or business dealings, operationalized as part of a financial transactional system, coded into the ongoing processes of a pre existing financial system, or voted to support in the course of fundraising the use of any techniques applied to the non destructive testing industry without the express written consent of the individual or group of individuals used as either financial transactional instruments or from whom information was extracted, if said individual or group of individuals can show that they have attempted to report the misuse of said technology, and the individual can demonstrate per section 1.3 that they have likewise previously been utilized as a financial transactional instrument and or is someone from whom information was extracted. If this had been taken at all seriously, this virtual convertible currency crap that the Federal Reserve just tried to work would not have been possible. If this had been taken seriously, COVID 19 would not have been possible. COVID 19 would have been prevented. So would this porn fest that the House of Representatives has been engaged in regarding their allegations of Russian hacking. And so would whatever these recent election interference conspiracy theories, and not only conspiracy theories, but acts of massive securities fraud, would not have been possible. What they've done in the last 3 years with their processes of attempting to assimilate and normalize us to commercialized sexual exploitation under the guise of it being about some kind of energy paradigm or some sort of crypto commerce economy would not have been possible. And, at the time I came at this from a concept that I was somebody that was actually involved with what would be considered the non destructive testing industry, even if it was at the incipient stages. And regardless of whatever let's put it this way, teachers thought that they could get away with because they had already subcontracted out what they were doing with their provision of our education in order to connect with other elements of the industry would not have been possible because what they would have been doing instead would have been against the law. Now, it's not my fault if somebody took this or spied on me when I wrote it, or actually took other versions and decided they were going to misapply it in illegal manners. And I can see now that if somebody took this and put it together with my excise tax regarding trafficking through the Health and Human Services system, they could come up with a nice little extortion scheme, couldn't you? Because this is a very, very severe penalty against abuse. But if you're some sort of little thug that found a way to get themselves a certificate, and especially if you can find a way to convince some people to reduce the standards and then try to normalize people to having to accede their authority or expertise to those who have been able to be availed of reduced standards, then it can make it seem like you've been pretty much cut off. And in that isolation, you can be ripe for exploitation. That's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what has now been prevented. I'm not going to read the other one all the way through. I stand behind it. It does say in there that if you're caught trafficking, you are subjected to a 51% excise tax. Now, the understanding I have is excise means value added at the time, at the point of origin. There's a preclusion against waiving it off. Like I've been saying, if you can't pay the fucking taxes yourself, you just shouldn't go there.